When I never felt that, come on, yeah. Never felt that, come on, yeah. When I never felt that, come on, yeah. You gotta get up.
The sun's enormous size and the matter it contains creates the gravity that keeps the Earth and the objects around it revolving around the sun. Just in case you're ever on Jeopardy, Jupiter is the largest and Mercury is the smallest. Every planet besides Mercury and Venus have moons. Pluto has been demoted from planet to dwarf planet, but it does have friends. The terrestrial planets all have a crust for a surface, and you see the word hot. Speaking of the Earth and hot, let's talk about climate change.
The Earth's surface is in constant motion. Driven by the immense heat beneath them, the continents collide to create vast mountain ranges. The rise and fall of these mountains contributes greatly to changes in the planet's climate, which in turn dictates the conditions that shape all life on Earth. The key question facing us now is how to distinguish between variations that occur naturally and those that are induced by human behavior. For years, there have been reports that one of the largest bodies of inland water in the world, the Aral Sea, is disappearing. It lies between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and has been drying up since the 1960s, when the rivers that fed it were diverted to increase cotton production in the Soviet Union. Scientists had warned it would be dead by 2020, but water levels are now beginning to rise again in part of the lake. Thanks to a dam sealing off the north part of the sea from the south, the water level in the north has risen by more than 3 meters. This northern part is a fraction of what originally was the Aral Sea, but this small change proves we can make a difference. Elsewhere, rising sea levels are a problem. As temperatures rise, so do those of the sea, causing oceans to expand. Coupled with the effects of the glacial thaw, this means sea levels are set to rise higher still. The inhabitants of the tiny Pacific islands of Tuvalu are already facing the realities of an invading sea, with plans now in place for some of the population to be evacuated to New Zealand. Beneath the sea, these changes have not gone unnoticed. The world's coral reefs are the marine equivalent of the rainforests, teeming with countless different species. If the warming continues, some of our richest environments and the thousands of species that dwell there may be lost. And the world's coral reefs are not the only rich ecosystem now at risk. Changes could now be occurring even in places which are relied on to absorb huge amounts of excess CO2. Often referred to as the lungs of the world, the plants of the Amazon rainforests respire on a massive scale, absorbing carbon dioxide from the air and expelling oxygen. In spite of intensive logging, much of this forest still survives. But scientists are uncovering an even more pressing threat to the health of the jungle than deforestation. In 2005, the Amazon region suffered its worst drought in 60 years. The consequences of drought here can be devastating, affecting as much as 30% of the whole forest. The drought has been linked to the abnormally warm seas in the Atlantic, which disrupted the rainfall patterns in the forests. This is of particular concern because the type of ocean heating that seems to have caused the Amazonian drought exactly corresponds with predicted scenarios of global warming. Whatever the causes, there is no possibility that mankind will remain immune to the effects of a changing landscape. This desert in the Nanzhou province in northern China is expanding. Over the last 20 years, there's been a marked decline in rainfall. Powerful winds have driven the thin soils into dunes, smothering fields and burying villages. When the winds pick up, the dry soil can quickly create a sandstorm. Such storms are already afflicting larger cities like Beijing. If the drying continues, this will only get worse. Man has been one of the major forces in these changes. The future shape of the world is being decided by our actions today.
The gas giants are much larger, but obviously less dense gas. An asteroid belt exists between Mars and Jupiter. Here you will find thousands of comets. The Earth itself is divided between atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. Biosphere is the entire package: air, water, earth, plants, animals that fit together at that particular location. The continental shelf is just an extension of the coastal plain that just happened to be underwater.